Oh, I've just realised this has been going for 12 seconds and I haven't been talking. It's been ages since I've made one of these. Right, so this is lesson one of our funny week where some of you are in for testing and some of you aren't. And I thought it would be easier if I just kind of recorded a lesson and then you can work at it at your own pace. So first slide, just a reminder of our essay question about families. Second slide, again, a reminder of that you're trying to hit all those assessment objectives as we go through. And then today we're going to be working on symbolism. And you never just want to identify symbols in a text, you always want to think about their function. So here I'm asking you to consider as you go through, how do they introduce or develop key ideas in their texts? You're going to start with Bertha. Now, I've talked a little bit about Bertha to some of you. There is a little video that you're going to watch here about Bertha and her kind of origins in Jane Eyre. And then what I'd like you to think about is why Polly Teal has called the play after Mrs. Rochester. I would like you to make some notes on this because I'm really keen to discuss this in our first lesson back together. There's also a link here, as you can see, where you're going to be able to read a lot more about Bertha, and I really encourage you to do that. There we go. What I've done here for you is to pull out a few extracts from Jane Eyre. The first extract here, just to contextualise it, is the point, if you haven't read Jane Eyre, where Rochester and Jane are about to get married, but Bertha's brother turns up and stops the wedding, claiming that he's a bigamist. And at this point, Rochester has to fess up that he's been keeping his first wife locked up in the attic at Thornfield Hall, and he invites them all to visit her with him. In this part of the novel, not long after Jane has recovered her senses a bit, what we discover here is that Rochester is going to give his side of the story about the wife that he was tricked into marrying, and particularly how she is very animalistic. He also makes, the comment that she's older than him, and that they basically lied to him about her. At the end, or towards the end of the novel, after Jane and Rochester have been separated for quite some time, Jane returns to Thornfield Hall and discovers that it is burnt to the ground. The fire itself has been started, we suspect, by Bertha, and at the end of the novel, at the end of this episode, Bertha jumps from the very top of the building, but not before Rochester does try to save her. For many people, this redeems Rochester a little bit in the way that he's treated Bertha previously. Rochester himself does go blind trying to do this, so he doesn't escape punishment. Now, Bertha is then given a new life by Jean Rhys in Wide Sargasso Sea. And I've put a link here. If you haven't read the novel, please take some time. Bertha is such a powerful, not just a character, but a symbol in this play. And I think you really do need to know this backstory. So click on here and read this, take your time, make some good notes so that you fully understand why Teal has given her such an interesting role in this play. Moving on then, I'd like you to find key quotations regarding Bertha. Many of you might have done this already. Here are just a few ideas that I was thinking that she could be seen as a symbol of. We've looked a little bit, some of us, at how she kind of moves between being kind of like a daughter figure to Jean, a mother figure to Ella, and vice versa. how she might be a symbol of repressed sexuality, or in fact, the very opposite of that. Is she a symbol of freedom? Is she a symbol simply of the West Indies and what Eyre brings to England? Again, these aren't set in stone, and I'm sure that you'll come up with a lot more interesting ideas than I do. When you've done that, maybe you could try writing that up as a little point. And this is just a sentence starter to help you. In the play, Bertha functions as, which helps us understand Jean when. So I think we need to always think about Bertha in relation to Jean/Eyre. To close this lesson then, I'd like you just to consider 3 other powerful symbols in the play. We've talked about clothing, we've talked about the coat and everything that might mean. But just bring all of those ideas together. I don't know if you've thought about this, but for me, that coat is a fur coat. I can't imagine another kind of coat, A, being that expensive, or B, attracting that much attention. Remember, we're not in an era where animal rights were at the forefront. So as uncomfortable as that may make many of you feel, kind of put that aside for a little bit as you think about the symbolism of the coat here. I'd like you to think about the butterfly and the rotting mangoes. And yes, look at that great image that I found there. Nobody wants to eat that, do they? Oh, use diagrams to explain your ideas. Maybe I need to change that. I don't know if this might help some of you as you start to think more broadly about some other symbols in the play. You might want to use this kind of diagram to link up context and critical readings. So this slide here is optional. Again, I often find diagrams really help me sort out the ideas that I want. I often have too many ideas, and I really need something like this to help me pin them down. So that's it. This is your first remote lesson of the week. I will be available while your lessons should be going on, and I will go into Classroom so that you can get in touch with me if you need to. So don't worry that I'm not going to be there at all next week. I very much am. But for those of you who have appointments, I think this is a much more sensible approach. Okay, I'm really excited to see what you come up with, and look out for Symbols Part 2, Oranges.